Okay, welcome you all. So today I'm going to show you how to do the fifth program of mobile application development. So fifth program is like this. Write a program to create an activity with two buttons, start and stop. On pressing of the start button, the activity must start the counter by displaying the numbers from 1, and the counter must keep on counting until the stop button is pressed. So display the counter value in a text view control. So this is the simple UI that you need to create. So we'll create a simple UI with counter application as the title and one text view for displaying the counter value and start and stop button. When I click on the start button, the counter should start counting, and when I click on the stop button, the counter should stop counting. So this is what the simple application we are going to do now. So I have already kept my Android Studio open. So and I've already opened a new project also. The name of the project I've given it as counter. So first let me design the activity. So layout. I'm going to the code. I'll change this to the linear layout. Changing it to the linear layout. Orientation I'm taking vertical. So now this text view I'll modify and just display the counter application. I'll display as counter application. So let me center this and text size, let us take 30 sp. Text color, so let me take this itself. Now after this I need to create a text view, so where I'll be displaying the counter value. Even for this text view also, width I say match parent, height I'll say wrap content. I'll close the tag, make space for adding few more attributes. So let me set the text size for this as 20 sp, then text alignment as center, and then text color, let me take this, and then ID I'll give, because ID is necessary for this. ID I'll give it as counter. So ID I'm giving it as the counter. So after this, so we got to create one start button and one stop button. So next I'm creating the button. So I'm giving width as match parent, height as wrap content, closing the tag. Now ID of this I'll give it as start, and then text I'll give it as start, then text alignment I'll say center, and then on click I call start counter. So this much I'm doing for the start button, and similarly one more button, stop button. So width I say match parent, height as a wrap content, close the tag. Let me assign the ID to this as stop, and then I'll give the text as stop, and then text alignment will make it as center, and then on click I'll call stop counter. So these are the things. So now let me click and on the design and show you how the design looks. It looks like this. So counter application is not centered. Let me go for centering it. So text alignment center I have given. Okay, width I have to make it as match parent. So now if I look at the design, this is how it looks. This is enough. Now we'll go for coding. Okay. Now here, see, this looks so very simple now. So when I click on the start button, so I can take a variable I, and I click on the start button. Now you can go for incrementing the value of I and display the count value here. So for us it looks simple. So I cannot go for directly writing the code for incrementing the value of I and displaying in the text code. Why? Because so Android follows something called as UI thread, uses something called as UI thread, that is user interface thread. So whenever I run my app, so Android implicitly creates a thread for running my UI, user interface, and that UI interface, the thread which is running the UI interface, should not be disturbed. Okay. So and if I make that thread which is running my UI to run in an infinite loop and go for incrementing the counter, so it will not work. So because anything which you run in the Android except the UI thread should not take more than 5 seconds. If anything is taking more than 5 or 6 seconds, what will happen is the Android operating system says ANR, Android not responding, and it stops working. Now this incrementing the counter value, I cannot make my UI thread to do it. So it has to be done using a separate thread which runs at the background, and that thread should go for updating the count value in the UI thread. So my UI thread should not be involved in counting. I cannot run my UI thread in the infinite loop for updating the counter. So first let me make my UI thread, okay, itself to go for updating the counter value. Let us see what happens, and then we will go for doing it in the alternate method. So by making a separate thread to run in the background and update the count value. So first I'll show you how to do it using the normal way. Okay, say on click of the start button, so I come here. So don't copy this, so because I'm going to comment everything. So let me take the object of text view. So I'll take it as TV. Now here, so I say TV is equal to find view by ID r dot ID dot, I've given the ID as the counter. Okay, this is what I'm doing. Now let us go for writing the method public void, so start counter, so view v. Now inside this, so I can take a local variable int I is equal to 0. Okay. Now ಒಂದೆರಡು ನಿಮಿಷ ಇದು ನಾನು ರೆಕಾರ್ಡ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊತೀನಿ ಒಂದೆರಡು. Sorry. So now I have taken a local variable I and I've initialized it to 0. Now here let me take one more variable int, or let me take one more global variable with the name int t is the t. Now here I'll initialize t is equal to 1. Now here while t equal to 1, so what I'll do, I'll go for so this TV. So my object that is pointing to my counter text view is TV. TV is equal to, sorry, so TV dot set text. So I'll go for writing it as text I plus plus. Okay, I plus plus. This is what I'm writing. Okay, so I is an integer variable. So this I have to make it as plus and I plus plus. So this is how I'm writing. And next, in this top, so public void stop counter view v. I'll just go for making t is equal to 0. Okay, and t is a class scope variable. Now what this is going to do, when I click on the start, it comes here, makes t as 1. Well, t is equal to 1. So what it will do, so tv is equal to, so it keeps incrementing the value of I and keeps pushing it to the text view. So the moment I click on the stop counter, so t is made as 0. Okay, so t is made as 0. Then what will happen, while t value is 0 now, it should stop, but this will not work because what I'm doing, so all these things I'm doing in my main UI thread, which is responsible for the execution of the user interface. So now the program hangs. Okay, so this solution we will see this will not work, and we'll try to do with the other method where we write a separate thread, and that thread is going to increment the counter and update your UI thread. So I'm running the app now. My emulator is also running already. Yeah, so it is still, yeah, now it will, so waiting for all target devices to come online. Okay, installing. Now launching the activity. So it has succeeded. So now it has come. So I click on the start now. Now, strictly speaking, when I click on the start, so this method should be called. So I is initialized to 0 and t will be set to 1. While t is equal to 1, it should go for incrementing the value of I plus plus, and it should keep on displaying here. So now that will not happen. See, I've clicked on the start, it is not happening. Why? So because I'm disturbing my UI thread. So I cannot make my UI thread run into a continuous loop and update the counter. So the other method that we follow is we go for using the handler class here. So using the handler class, it can be done very easily. Okay. So let me minimize this. Now we'll go for modifying our program. So that means this will not work. What I'll do is, so from here to here, I'll comment everything. This also I will comment. Okay, or let me remove this. This is not necessary for us now because that way it doesn't work. I've removed. Now here I'll create one more. I'll create an object of class handler. There is a class with the name handler. I'm creating an object name with my handler. Let me select it from the drop down list. So this one, Android.os. So my handler is equal to new handler. So this is the handler which I've created. Now next, inside the start, now on this handler, so let me make it as my. On this handler, my handler, I invoke the execution of a method called as post delete. Okay, so post delete here I call a thread with the name thread count, and you got to pass the delay. Okay, so let me give the delay as 0 for time being. So this is what I'm doing. Now what this will do is my handler, it creates a message queue, and to that message queue it posts this thread. And what is the frequency at which it is going to post this thread through the message queue is with the delay 0. Okay, so I'm setting it to 0. Next, so here inside stop, by using my handler, I just call the method remove callbacks and pass the thread count. So any name you can give. I've given it as thread count. So now let us go for implementing this thread by using the runnable interface. Public runnable. So name of the thread is name of the runnable is now thread count is equal to name of the runnable interface is now thread count is equal to new runnable. Now this is underlined in red because we got to override the run method. Click here and say implement methods. So this has to be implemented, run method. Click on OK. Now inside the run method, so what we do, I go for TV. Now I access my text view object using this TV dot set text plus I. So I'm displaying I in my text view. So now what we will do is this I is a okay, it's saying I is not found. Let us declare I here, int I, okay. And then we'll go for incrementing. After displaying, we'll increment the I plus plus I'm doing, and after this again I have to post my handler dot post delete thread count, comma, and the seconds again I'll make it as 0. Delay I'll make it as 0. Okay. Okay, here we got to have runnable interface, a semicolon has to be there. Okay, this much we have done now. Now let me initialize I is equal to 0 here. Just let me remove. So this global variable I have taken and I've declared the handler object with the name myHandler. Now using myHandler, I'm posting my runnable interface with the name thread count to the message queue with the delay 0. And then on click of the stop counter, I'm removing all the callbacks from the message queue with the name thread count. Now here, so when the message get posted, so all the runnable interfaces thread count that get posted to the message queue, so will go for running this run method. So what they do, they read the I value. So they set the I value in the text view, then they increment the I value, and again there is one more after incrementing, there is one more thread count message that is getting posted to the message queue. So every time the thread count message get posted to the message queue, there is a runnable interface is called, and the new thread is will go for updating the what I value. Okay, now let me run this. Still running. So waiting for all target devices to come online. Now it is installing. Okay, so now my app is started. I click on the start now. See, the count is incrementing, but it is too fast. So if I click on the stop, it stopped. So if I click on the start, it resumes from there again. So I'm clicking on the stop, stops there. So but this, it's counting too fast now. Say I want the count to be incremented on every second. So then make delay as 1000. 1000 is nothing but 1 second. Now I'll go for rerunning it. Now we have this thread count runnable interface posted to the message queue after every 1 second. Okay, even the count also gets incremented after every 1 second. So disconnect. Now it is installing. Launching the activity. So if we click on start now, so the count gets incremented on every second. On every second the count is incremented. Why? Because we have the thread count runnable interface getting posted to the message queue that is created by the handler at every 1 second. Okay, and it gets executed. And after it gets executed and the count is displayed here, immediately it will post one more thread count. So it is happening in a loop. Now when I click on the stop, it removes all the callbacks and the counting stops. Okay. Now if I click on the stop, again it is resuming from the point where the count had stopped. Now let me click stop. Now when I click on the start, if I don't want to resume from this current count value, if I want to start it all the way from the 0, what is that I need to do? So this I value which I have declared in the class scope initialized to 0. So here on every click of the start, I should go for initializing it to 0. So here if I initialize it to 0, so then instead of resuming, it again starts from 0. So I'm rerunning. I'm rerunning. So installing. Now it is executing. Now I'm clicking on the start. So again counts on every second. Now I click on the stop, count it till 4. Now again if I click on the start, it starts again from 0. So this is what the counter application is. So very easy. Only thing is you got to make use of the handler class, create an handler object. On the handler object, you invoke the execution of post delete and pass the thread count. So this is the thread count. Any name you can give. I've given it as the thread count, which is implemented as a thread using the runnable interface. Now this thread count gets posted to the message queue that is created by the my handler, and every time the thread count posted to the message queue, so this runnable is called and the code is executed. So initially it goes for displaying the value of I, that is 0. So and then the thread gets increments it as I++, and then the same thread again calls one more my handler post delete thread count. There is one more thread count being posted to the handler, message queue, and again this gets executed for one more time. The same process keeps repeating until you press the stop counter. The moment you press the stop counter, so it is removing the callback thread count. That means we don't have this thread count being, so if it gets posted to the message queue, it gets executed. Now we are stopping all that. Now the count also stops until and unless you press the start button again. We don't have the thread count acting as a callback, so it stops. So this is what the application is. So once again I'll show you. See, my counter is still running, so let me stop here and start again. So it is starting all the way from 0 because on every click of the start button I'm initializing it to 0. So if you want to resume from the same point itself, so then you can go for commenting this I is equal to 0. So if you comment this I is equal to 0 and run the program again, so instead of starting again from the 0, it resumes from the point where it had stopped. So I'm starting now. See, counting. So I stop. So when you click on start, it continues from there again. So continuing from there itself. So this is your counter application. So thank you. Now this way, so you don't have your UI thread, the main UI thread disturbed. So we have the separate threads created, and those separate threads are incrementing the count and updating the UI thread. Okay. So thank you.